So we had one stipulation that we agreed on. Only one Die Hard film can be on this list. And that's kind of rough. That, like, it was a tough decision. It really was. And it's funny because almost everybody else in the world would be like, why is that a tough decision? You picked the first. But it's still a tough decision.
Right. Well, and it's Die Hard. Like, everything, like, 1 through, 4, it'd be hard to not want to put every single one of them on a top 10. But if you did put them in a top 10, at least 3 or 4, well, at least 2 or 3 are making it onto the top 10. So it just chews up too much of the top 10.
It really does. And this list, it's kind of, for me anyway, it was kind of interesting to look at it. And, some of the movies that I have in here aren't exactly the movies that I think a lot of people would have. But then again, John and I tend to wind up ranking the same on a lot of these random lists. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. So I'm thinking like 1 or 2 honorable mentions. If you have a couple that couldn't make it, and then just dive right in. So go ahead. What's your honorable mentions, if you have any?
I am going to go with Sin City as an honorable mention, my first. It's a really good movie. I really enjoy the film. I don't know anybody who doesn't. I just couldn't quite fit it on this list because it's not entirely in the vein of Bruce Willis. I don't know. My second one would have to be The Last Boy Scout, which everybody is going to freak out that that's not my top 10, especially this guy up here.
Yeah, that's bad.
It's a great movie. A fantastic movie. I love that movie. But my 10, I get more enjoyment out of. So those are my 2 honorable mentions. What about you?
Yeah, I would probably throw Sin City in there. I mean, part of me wants to throw, like, Look Who's Talking too, just because.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just as good as anybody else in that movie, Kirstie Alley or John Travolta, but, or no, it was, right, yeah, he's in the first 2, and then it's Danny DeVito who plays the dog in the third one. Look Who's Talking Now. But anyway, so Sin City. And then I would put the Death Wish 2017, whichever it is.
That was actually a pretty good movie.
It's a good movie. And, I need to revisit. I just bought all the Death Wishes on Blu-ray. So I want to go back and revisit them. Because some people are like, they're trash. Some people are like, they go too far. And some people are like, dude, this is awesome. So it's been a long time since I've watched them. So I need to go back and say.
They're a staple. The original Death Wish films stuff is a staple of the time. The cast that was chosen, the dialogue, the revenge plot, like, it is all a staple of the time. And the new one with Bruce Willis really takes that to heart and makes a more modern version of it. That's why I really appreciate it. I should have put that in my honorable mentions. Yeah, Death Wish is a really, really good honorable mention. I was not expecting anything good, and then I got there. I was like, all right, this ain't bad. This ain't bad.
It's got some kind of Death Wish or Death Sentence from Kevin Bacon, from James Wan. It kind of has some of that to it, and then it kind of has the everyday, like, Taken vibes to it, kind of. Anyway, it's a good movie. Those are pretty much those are mine. So, all right, man. What is your number 10?
My number 10 is Red. I love this movie. John Malkovich is brilliant. Pairing John Malkovich with Bruce Willis, that's even better. Like, okay, the dialogue in that movie and putting Bruce Willis's, like, Die Hard-esque characterization up against the comedy that John Malkovich brings to those types of roles, phenomenal. I love it. I am entertained by every single second of that film. It's goofy. It's fun. You're not there to take it seriously. It's a good, lighthearted film. And the sequel's really good too. I'm not as big of a fan of the sequel, but it is a really good movie. I actually, sadly, only own the first, but look at look at that cast.
Yeah, Morgan
Look at
Freeman's
that.
awesome in it too. Yeah, I love that when Back in the Saddle Again kicks off and he's like, he just steps out. He doesn't
Yes.
jump out of the car. He steps out of the car and then it swings around and just barely misses him. Like
It's great.
It knows exactly what movie it is. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that gets my number 10. It's not the best movie, but I cannot complain about a single scene in that film.
Yep. I would say, okay, my number 10, I got a couple that are kind of unsung heroes. They're kind of hidden gems that people just don't really talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a movie where it's hard for me to say what makes it great. It's just every time I come back to it, I like it a little bit more. It moves me. The action's great. And that's going to be Tears of the Sun. I think it was in 2009, 6, somewhere in there.
Yep.
You know, it's got a bunch of B-listers. He starts off as like this hardened like colonel, take orders, do by the book, and then all of a sudden he comes on this like missionary church, and he's got to get these people out of there before the warlords get there, and then he ends up, standard story, but there's a lot of heart and good action in that movie. Like it feels like Forrest Gump military action when it goes off.
That movie, I remember the first time I saw it, a buddy of mine brought over Black Hawk Down, which I hadn't seen yet, Tears of the Sun, and Blood Diamond.
Jeez.
And it was just like a triple feature. Like, we just sat down and watched them all. All three really great movies. I mean, I personally, out of the three, I think Blood Diamond is the best, but Tears of the Sun, like, I expected nothing, and again, I was actually like, there's moments in that film that are hard, which is kind of weird for a Bruce Willis military movie. You would think more Rambo, like Rambo 2, but
right.
No. It's a good movie. It's worth the time. If you haven't seen it, I can't recommend it that enough. Right. Yeah, that's a great one.
Great one.
Yeah. So moving on.
Number 9.
Number 9. Not traditional at all, but I would be lying if I didn't put it on this list, and that's Unbreakable.
Yep.
When it first came out, it was slow for me. Like I was more into just, I needed that fast pace. Something's got to always be happening. But then as I aged with the film, the more I enjoyed it. Especially somehow Bruce Willis was actually very well cast. You wouldn't expect that for a thriller, superhero, dark-esque type film. He wouldn't have been my pick, not even a little bit, but it worked. It worked really, really well. And I understand a lot of people have problems with the movie. There are some problems with his characterization as well, which I'm sure we've probably talked about, and if we haven't, there's plenty out there. But when he starts visualizing things, there's some cases that are far more important than the ones that he tackles. But the movie in and of itself, it's a good movie, and I had to toss it on my list. So that's my number 9, Unbreakable.
Love it. I love that he wears like a poncho and he becomes a superhero, right? And then like, his weakness and everything, and like that, like you said, the build, the story. It's about story and characters. It's not about action. It's not about blah blah blah. It's about letting the story come over you and just and you just need to eat it up. The older I get, the more I appreciate it too. Samuel L. Jackson's awesome in that movie too. Like,
yes.
I mean, M. Night Shyamalan. That was right when Bruce Willis started to do some more serious things. He wanted to do like Sixth Sense, stuff like that. So it's a great movie. That is my number 9 as well. Yep.
Here we go. We're doing it. Yeah, no, so like, down. I don't own it, and that kind of breaks my heart. Like, of that trilogy, I don't really care for Glass or Split as much. Unbreakable, I absolutely love Unbreakable. I want to get do you remember when it first came out, there was the standard edition DVD and then the fold-out case DVD? I want that one. And I know it's stupid to want an old school DVD, but I realized I have the special edition of the first Saw that has that like Jigsaw news tapes or whatever, and I bought it simply because it had that. Like, I'm that weird guy. But no, Unbreakable, yeah, I think it's great. We both have it as number 9.
It's another one of those movies that gets better over time. It's weird. It's because you just don't get a whole lot of those movies. And, like, especially at that time, people didn't do superhero movies much, and they didn't do it like this. I think I actually kind of prefer Split over Unbreakable. I think the level of acting is through the roof. I think it's scary, but I don't care for Glass. Glass did some things for me that are unforgivable without giving any spoilers. Like, the first 75% of the movie is really good, and then it just falls on its face. But anyway, I don't want to spoil that. I don't want to get into that. You said yours, so I was like, I'll just throw mine out there. But I need to watch it again. I own it, sitting right there. But
I only saw that in theaters, and I haven't seen Split since it was first released on DVD. And not a huge fan of either. But Unbreakable, like, the storytelling in that is just ridiculous. I can't believe we're spending this much time on our number 9, but I have to. It's great. It's great.
Oh, it's so good. Yep.
Yeah. So I guess that brings us to 8, and this one's also kind of non-traditional. That's Bandits.
Yeah. Billy Bob Thornton. Yeah.
Yes. This movie, my brother and I, when it came out, we were like, and then we went to Blockbuster and we rented a bunch of movies, and this happened to be in it. And sure enough, as soon as we returned it, we went and bought a copy, and we just kept watching it over and over and over again. It's not a heavy hitter film. It's not really an action film. It's more of a drama-esque comedy, dark comedy, but it's a good movie. Like, it's not something you can sit back and watch every day, but it is entertaining. And I don't want to spoil a lot of it because I feel like this doesn't get on his like favorites lists a lot. But Bandits is such a good movie, and I have to recommend it if you haven't seen it. Go check it out on any platform you can. It's a fun movie.
It really is. The bickering in that movie is really good, and
yes,
it's very well spread out movie. Without don't get me started on Glass. See, that's what I'm saying. I don't know how you can say that Split sucks, because Split's got some awesome acting. I mean, if you buy the premise, if you buy what it's selling, I think it's awesome. If you don't, I can see why you wouldn't like it. But Glass, I'm with you on Glass there, Jabari. I'm with you there. Hey, real quick, because I'm going to probably forget, I want to say one more honorable mention because it hurts me that it doesn't make the list, but that is Death Becomes Her. That is a gothic, goofy, hilarious comedy that I just want to throw out there. If it's on your list, my bad.
I was this close to putting it on my list, and I didn't write it down for an honorable mention either. So, yeah, solid mention. It's been a long time since I've seen that, but God, I remember loving it as a kid and growing up with it. And I started to watch it, I want to say like a year ago, and it was a very nostalgic film. Like, I felt like I was a little kid again, sitting in front of the TV in the living room watching it. Yeah, great movie.
Yeah,
great movie.
So good. Well, yeah, we're going to be a little bit different here. So my next one, my number 8 is Fifth Element. I know the backstory of this is really interesting. How long it was his pet project when he was a kid, like the director or whatever, the producer, whatever, the guy who wrote it, whatever. And the amount of detail they put into this, just looking at the storyboards is awesome. Chris Tucker in there. Everybody. Gary Oldman is really awesome in one of his top performances, but pretty much everything he's in is his top performance. So that's hard to say, but it's wacky, it's fun, it's never boring. It might be Mia Jovovich. It might be. I'm sorry, I feel bad. I can't remember her last name, but Jovovich. Thank you. It might be one of her best movies in my opinion, overall. I love The Fifth Element, and it hurts me that it had to land here because I've watched it so much, and it's like I held it like right here, but nothing bad really. Just there's some other movies that are, you got to be in this. You got to be in a mood to watch this movie. It's not something you can just throw on. You're like, yeah, I'm in it. I mean, you can't. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, that's my number 8.
I am a meat popsicle. God, I love that movie. I am shocked at how low it is.
It's on there,
Wow.
man. I mean, yeah, really nothing.
It's on there.
I got the Blu-ray. I wanted the 4K, but I got the Blu-ray. That's good enough.
Sadly, like as I was making this list, it made me realize how few Bruce Willis movies I own, and it's problematic. Like I can't believe I don't own Jackal. Like what?
I'm
Anyway,
a big fan of Jackal. Anyway, go ahead.
I was. My number 7. Again, probably not something that would make a top Bruce Willis list for everybody, and that's The Whole Nine Yards. It's a goofy movie. It is absolutely tremendously goofy. The sequel's pretty good too, but it's overshadowed by how good the introductions of the characters are in The Whole Nine Yards. I mean, especially coming from the generation that watched Friends, and you're getting that interaction. Yeah, it's a weird good movie. It shouldn't be on this list, but it is. I love that movie. It's ridiculous.
It's got a lot of great B-list actors. I can't remember the main Yanni. I can't remember Yanni Gogolak. I can't remember the guy's name. He's in The Parent Trap with Jennifer Love Hewitt and them. Anyway, he's in it. Yeah. He's awesome. What's the guy from The Green Mile? John Coffey. He's the Kingpin and Daredevil. Passed away.
Michael Clark Duncan.
Thank you. He's in it. He's one of the best parts of the movie too. Yeah, everybody in that movie is fantastic. The wife that he's trying to get him killed, and anyway, my parents. That was one of their favorite comedies when that came out, and because like you were saying, Friends, it was like the height of Friends. What a great movie. Number 7 for me is The Whole Nine Yards. I love the movie. It's so good. It's such a good comedy. It's comedy, romance, action. Like they get kind of horrific with like the dental work and the car on fire, and like it's a movie that has almost everything in it. It's such a good movie from start to finish. And I mean, I watched it not too long ago on Netflix, and I forgot how funny it is. It's just funny, and it's just a great movie.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So our 9s and our 7s are the same so far. Let's see if we keep going on this trend with our odd films. So number 6, Pulp Fiction. How could it not make the list? It's a great movie. I know it's not 100% centric on Bruce Willis's character, but his character's story in that movie is ridiculous. And I mean, it's if you haven't seen it, which I don't know what rock you would be under that you haven't, you need to. Even if you're not a fan of Tarantino, because I have made the point that Tarantino is to action and Americana films what Rob Zombie is to horror, and I stand by that. So go see it. It's really good, and it had to make the list because, I mean, come on, that's Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. I would say that the reason why it can be a Bruce Willis movie is because really there's no main character. The story is the main character. Like everything else is secondary. Everything else is pawns around the main, culmination of everything. So yeah, I mean it's kind of like Crash, and there's a couple different movies where there's different pockets of people, and it all comes together in the end. But yeah, such a good movie. So Jabari says, scratch that. Split's ending sucked. Yeah, I can see if you don't buy that ending. I like the symbolism, the thought through it, how it ends. But if you're talking about the very, very ending, but if you're talking about like crawling on the wall stuff, I could understand that. I can understand that. My number.
Don't remember.
Oh man, go back and watch Split. Like, whether you like the movie or not, what's his name? God, I can't remember names tonight. Professor X.
Yep, I know who you're talking about in the name.
Not Stewart, McAvoy. James McAvoy. He deserved an Oscar for that performance. Like you're gonna give Joaquin Phoenix an Oscar for Joker, but this dude plays like 13 different characters, and he didn't even get a mention. Not even like a. I mean, I don't think he was up for award. Anyway, my number 6 is Hostage. I remember I had no hopes. Once again, it's got that guy we were just talking about, Yanni Gogolak, that was in Whole Nine Yards. He's in this movie as the dad. I had no real faith going into this movie. I was like, hey, this is a new Bruce Willis movie. Let's check it out. It was like 2004-ish, I think is when it came out. 3, something like that. Pretty sure it was, 2005, but it was 2005. But anyway, my brother and I, we're just sitting there. We're just like, holy crap. Like, this is the first time I can remember seeing Bruce Willis scared. Like, when he gets into the car and they roll up behind him and they tell him to put his hands on the steering wheel and do this, that, and the other thing, and you see him kind of trembling and like, I was like, wow, you put Bruce Willis in a movie, and he's like you were saying earlier, he's not just like Rambo running through everybody. You know, he's actually a normal dude that's been through the opening, the traumatic experience of being the negotiator. Like, that movie is so good. And then it has that bit of a horror element right at the end, of course, so that's going to make me love it. You know, once again, romance, got a little bit of comedy, acting's great. Can't remember the actor that's in it, but he's in a lot of good movies like 3:10 to Yuma. The guy who plays the main bad guy with the black hair. 3:10 to Yuma. He's in Hell or High Water. He's in a lot of good stuff. I just can't remember his name at the moment, but great actor.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, that is a fantastic movie, and I'll get to it.
Okay. All right, well, that was my number 6, so we're ready for your number 5.
My number 5 is The Sixth Sense.
Nice.
I love this movie. I absolutely love it. In our discussion about what films will we go see in theaters again, best film experiences, that was up there for me. That movie, since the first time I saw it, absolutely loved it. I've had this long-term, like, there's certain movies that you just kind of get a relationship with. I haven't watched it in a couple of years, but when the time is right, I'm anticipating I need about 2 hours where nothing's going to interrupt me, and I plan on sitting down and watching it. The very next time I have that 2 hours, I will be sitting down and watching it. The Sixth Sense is a great movie. It is not a traditional Bruce Willis role at all. The cast did amazing. As far as M. Night goes, that's his best twist, and I will take that to the grave with me. Yep.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah. It's hard to beat that. Yeah. I don't actually own that movie. That now I'm looking. I see Glass Split. I see Devil Signs. I don't think I have that one. I'm gonna have to make that. I'll have to fix that. So my number 5. We're not gonna match up here. My number 5 is Last Man Standing. This is a hidden gem that nobody talks about. I love the narration. I love the Western part of it. I love the gangster part of it, which is like some of my favorite genres. Once again, now this is the Bruce Willis you expect. Like, sheds no tears, doesn't feel pain, kind of like, you know, he just goes in and wrecks the place. Christopher Walken's awesome in it. And one of his best performances, I think, that nobody talks about. The guy from The Sopranos is in it. There's a bunch of good actors in it. There's also the guy from Commando, Sully or whatever, that he's holding over by one hand. The guy from The Crow, who's like, you know, I promised to kill you last, I lied. That guy's awesome in it. I really, really like Last Man Standing. Every time I watch it, I'm like, it's just, you don't get to see that kind of movie very often. Like, it kind of, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like the Untouchables kind of feels like that. There's just not a whole lot of movies that feel like that kind of movie, but love it.
It's been a long time since I've seen that, and it is a great movie, and I would have had it on my list, but I remember so little about it that I didn't want to make a revisit it, and hate it. So I sat it out, but I remember absolutely loving that movie.
Yeah.
I need to add that to my collection.
They've got that in The Last Boy Scout in a double pack of Blu-ray. That's what I got it on. If you need both, if you're trying to build your collection, that's a fast way to do it. But so yeah, that was my number 5. If you haven't seen Last Man Standing, definitely check it out.
Yeah. So number 4, much higher on my list than John's. This is The Fifth Element. This movie, It's been a staple for me growing up. And I remember when they first released the collector's edition DVD, we bought a copy, me and my brother did, didn't work. Return it, get another copy, wouldn't play. Return it, get another copy. It was like 5 times before we got a copy that worked. Dude, it was so exhausting. Like, man, the discs were blank. Absolutely blank. It got to the, I think we bought them all at Walmart, and we finally said, you know what, we'll return this one to Walmart, and then we went to Best Buy, and that one worked. So, but yeah, that movie has been, it's been in the background my whole life. I went and saw it in theaters when it was re-released. I want to say, what was that, like 2014, 2015 maybe?
I don't remember.
When it got re-released in theaters. But it was like digitally remastered and re-released for like 2 weeks, and I went and saw it. And it was really cool to get to see that in theaters. It was empty. Like, it was only me and like 5 other people in there. Great movie, though. Absolutely great movie.
Yeah, the only real negative I have with the movie is the third act. Like, the third act, it's kind of lackluster. Like, there's no, like, the main villain doesn't get to go up against the main good guy or Lilu. Not really. It's more about what matters to you, love, meaning, you know what I mean? Like, accepting, opening yourself up. There's a whole bunch of, like, meaning in the third act, which is great because, it's about life and saving life and the evil coming after it and stuff like that. But as far as, like, fight scene goes, like, the whole movie's building to, like, this really good fight scene. You get some, like, you see the action of both sides, but you don't see them go up against each other. Kind of, it took a while for me to figure out why it kind of holds, that movie kind of pulls back a little bit, and it's because of that third act. It just, for me, it doesn't quite pay off, but doesn't mean it's not a great movie. I mean, it's a solid, probably 8.5 out of 10, but
yeah. No, but I love it. I love it.
So my number 4 is actually a honorable mention from Caleb. So mine's way higher up here. It made the list, and it is The Last Boy Scout.
Yep.
My brother and I can quote this thing so much. Like, it's just that dry, like, quips and puns, and it's got Daniel Harris in it. It's the bad guys are awesome. Damon Wayans is awesome. He's pretty much awesome in everything he's in, to be fair. Just love this movie. It's such a good 90s action movie.
A great movie to watch with that is Adam Sandler's Bulletproof.
Yes.
Back to back. I used to do that a lot. It's just a great double feature.
Or make it a triple feature and watch Glimmer Man. The Glimmer Man with Steven Seagal, and that's Damon Wayans, right?
It's been a long time.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. Yeah, it's so good. I mean, it's I don't think I can put it above Bulletproof, but I do love me some Glimmer Man. But yeah, Last Boy Scout, man, love it.
Yeah. So this is where we get into dangerous territory and hurt feelings and angry people. These are our top 3 Bruce Willis films, and there can only be one Die Hard film, which means we both have a Die Hard film in here. I know this. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my number 3, and that is 12 Monkeys.
Ooh, Brad Pitt. Yeah.
I love this movie. It's like the pre-Fight Club Fight Club. It is. Yep. It's a film that is nonsensical yet very deep in meaning. It's absurd yet makes perfect sense. And very rarely do films like that come along, and especially very rarely with actors like Bruce Willis. That's like, if somebody told me that there was a film like that with Arnold, I would not believe you. And even still, do not believe you if you claim there is. You can say what you want about Total Recall, but it is not on the same level that 12 Monkeys is.
Yeah.
I wore out a couple of VHSs of it. I have the cool old DVD with the reflective top with the silver and the red eye.
The eyeball, yeah.
Yeah. yeah, I love that movie. I spent many a days just sitting, chilling, and popping that in, and then I pop in Full Metal Jacket, and then Fight Club, and it's just those types of films kind of were like an era for me from ages like 12 to 15, watching films like that over and over again. Toss in a little Dark City, a little The Crow, like those were my staples.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's weird. I don't think many people would toss 12 Monkeys in their top 3 Bruce Willis films, but 12 Monkeys is my number 3.
That's a little weird, yeah. No, 12 Monkeys, another good combo with that would be Looper. And, like you said, Fight Club, but Looper would be a good one with that, too. 12 Monkeys, like, there's some really good acting in that. I really like Brad Pitt in that role. I need to revisit it. I've seen it once, was very impressed, but, it's one of those where, if you catch it at the right time, it can become legendary, like Last Man Standing for me. If you don't, you could see why it becomes a hidden gem for other people. Because, if you don't hit it, if you move past it or you whatever, if you just, sometimes it's just, I didn't branch out on a lot of Bruce Willis's movies, but until later on in life. But, no, good movie, though. So my number 3 is Pulp Fiction. Like I said earlier, the character is the story. Bruce Willis is in it, but he's not the main, but he's a great part of it. He doesn't make the movie necessarily, but he's part of greatness. That's one of the best movies in the early 90s. I mean, that is the movie that really put Quentin Tarantino on the map as an A-list director. Like, that was his second movie, and after that, everybody was imitating him. And it was a big comeback for a lot of actors. Not necessarily, like, all of them, but for a lot of actors, it was a big comeback story for him. And all those actors in it are legendary. Like, so it's just a great movie to this day.
Absolutely. If you haven't seen it, I know I said that earlier, but if you have not seen Pulp Fiction, take the time, sit back, give it a watch. If you have to pick any movie on this list and then the world ends, I would say Pulp Fiction is probably the one that deserves it the most, if you haven't seen it.
You can really feel, like, throughout the movie, like, Quentin Tarantino vibes that he would never let go. Like, how he holds the camera during dialogues, how he shoots certain, like in the cab scene where she's asking him, and it's, like, open-ended questions where they're not quite specific enough, where he's like, give me a cigarette and I'll tell you how it feels to kill a man. He's like, he gets the cigarette and he's like, I don't know how it feels to kill a man. I didn't know he was dead till you told me. Like, there's just his dialogue and everything else like that. The booth scenes that, about the steak and the shake and the burger and all that, like the dancing, like the whole movie's just, God dang, that movie's good. Man, probably, I'd love to do a Quentin Tarantino ranking. I still haven't seen Jackie Brown all the way through it. Last time I tried to watch it, I turned it off halfway through, but yeah. God, what a great movie.
I still haven't seen his latest film,
great
the
movie.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
It's great.
I want to, honestly, what I want to visit of his the most is I want to watch Kill Bill and Kill Bill 2 again, because it's been so long since I've watched them. And my coworker and I were talking about random movies the other day, and we were just talking on and on about Kill Bill, and then the inspiration for the sword and the inspiration for, like, the old kung fu movies where some of the things were drawn from. And that conversation just sparked that, like, God, I need to go watch them again. So
I really hope they keep talking about and teasing about a Kill Bill 3. I pray to God they don't do it. Leave it alone.
I don't know if Uma Thurman would come back on after that relationship stuff with the car accident and all that. Yeah. I don't blame her. But yeah. Gosh, so this is number 2.
Number 2.
Wow. All right, everybody prepare to be mad. Die Hard with a Vengeance is my Die Hard pick.
Wow.
That's right. I said it. Now, here's the thing. The first Die Hard is by far a better film. It truly is. I will not challenge that. Die Hard with a Vengeance is the Die Hard film that I personally get the most enjoyment out of. It's the one that I saw, I had seen the most, to me, it was when I was younger, I thought it was the smartest Die Hard film. As you get older, you see it's less smart. The dialogue between him and Samuel L. Jackson is great. It really drove that movie, and I think it not intending to be a Die Hard. Wait, was that the first one that wasn't? No, Die Hard 2 wasn't supposed to be.
No, Die Hard 2 was supposed to be a Die Hard movie. Die Hard 3 was not. I'm pretty sure that's how it worked. Well,
no, Die Hard 2 was a book.
No, that's right. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah, Die Hard 2 was a book under a different title, and then they threw...
Right, but Die Hard 3 also wasn't supposed to be a Die Hard movie.
Yeah, I think the only one that was Live Free or Die Hard.
I think you're right.
I could be wrong on that. Don't quote me on it, but it's one of those scenarios where it shouldn't have worked, but in my opinion, it did. And again, this is my personal top 10. Mine. It's not yours. You don't have to agree. But if somebody puts the fifth Die Hard in their top 3, run.
Yeah. There is a time where you're wrong. Like, you're wrong. Like, yeah. I mean, Die Hard with a Vengeance is so good. Yeah, like you're saying, like that camaraderie, that partnership between him and Samuel L. Jackson, you know, two opposite ends of the spectrum. You know, you got a cop that's on his way out, and then you got a guy just trying to mind his own business in his neighborhood. And then, you know, both of them are forced into a situation they don't really want to be in. Like, you know, Bruce Willis just wanted to stay home, watch Captain Kangaroo, and smoke some cigarettes. Like, it's such a good movie. I think that one, it does kind of fall flat for me again, because that third act, like, once again, you built the whole movie, and then which is kind of nice because it's kind of more natural. It feels like, you know, you don't always get this big payoff that just makes it feel like they put these two in a room so they could fight, kind of a thing, or he had to kill 60 guys to get to the one dude. You know what I mean? Like,
it's not like The Transporter where somehow Jason Statham winds up shirtless and covered in motor oil.
Right. I do love that first movie, though. God, that first movie's good. Actually, the trilogy is actually pretty good. But now this is tough because my number 2. You know, I'm going to switch it up, and I could be wrong. My number 2 is a Die Hard movie, but I'm actually going to go Die Harder. I'm actually going to switch it. I was thinking Die Hard, but I'm going to put Die Harder in there. I know most people don't care for Die Harder. It was the worst Die Hard movie until the 5th movie. But to me, like I've said before in our commentary, I love the villains. There's the best villains in this movie. Like, there's a lot of memorable villains, layered villains throughout the movie. The fight scenes, they're going from place to place, you know, in a smaller contained area. But and you know, John McClane has more one-liners in that movie. The authority figures he has to bounce out of, you know, he's once again out of his element. I love Die Harder. It's so good. It's so good. I mean, the first one is obviously a better movie. Yeah. But the second one is just more entertaining to me.
See, and that's why I went with 3. Like, I was sitting there and I wrote Die Hard, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like,
I did too.
With a Vengeance. Like, I personally get so much more enjoyment out of that one. But I know that the first one's a better film, and I am totally fine making that logical leap, and like you are with the second one. And that's totally fair. But if anybody makes the logical leap for the 5th, run as fast as you can. And just don't do it. Just never talk to them again.
Can you imagine, though, your enjoyment? Can you imagine, though, your enjoyment of the franchise if the 5th one is your favorite? Like, you don't, like, what is your least favorite? Like, you know what I mean? It's like people like me that loved Scream 3 before Scream 5 came out. I didn't have, like, a real hate for any of the movies. Like, sometimes, like, but to be your favorite, I wouldn't understand that. Like, Scream 3 should not be anybody's favorite.
No, but I'm sure somebody is out there. They probably think Die Hard 5 is the best one, too. And they probably think...
I like Jai Courtney. I do. I like Jai Courtney. I'll defend him. Not a great actor. I just like him on screen. There's people that have charisma that aren't good to a lot of people, they're not good actors. I like them. Like there's certain actors.
I will flat out say that Terminator Genesis is a flawed film. Jai Courtney wasn't the problem with it. He wasn't.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I mean,
yeah. It's weird to think that you put Terminator and Jai Courtney together, and that's not one of the problems I have to pick with it at all, actually. So, yeah, no, I get you. Wow, we're down to the first.
The movie that beat out a Die Hard movie. That's crazy. And
I think it's weird that both of us. No, it's not the same.
We haven't talked about it yet. We haven't had an honorable mention. We have not talked about it. On my side, we've not talked about it yet.
Which is going to be weird if you say it and I go, damn, how'd I miss that one? But, so I guess I get to go first. This movie blows me away every time I watch it. I can remember where I was, the event, everything, the first time I saw it. And every time I watch it, I'm glued to the screen, and that is Hostage. And I think John's going to think it's weird that that's my number one, but
what?
It's not.
I put it at 6, so I mean, at least it made my list at least.
Yeah. Hostage is a unique film. It couldn't have come out earlier and been as good, and it definitely couldn't have come out later and been as good.
Right.
The cast is so well-rounded. It is just 2005 enough that it works perfectly. It's not a film that will feel dated in 10 years. And that's a good thing. Like, there are references, like the cell phone will feel a little old. But overall, it's just so well executed. It's got horror. It's got comedy. Like John was running down the list. It's got everything. And that scene that he brought up earlier where put your hands on the steering wheel and you kind of see every fight he has in him is leaving his body because he knows. He absolutely knows what happens if he does not comply.
You see the tear run down his face while he's like, yeah. I mean, it's intense, man. Like, he sees, really they roll up. Well, I guess I don't want to spoil it, but man, wow. Like I said, like this is a Bruce Willis movie where you really get to see, you feel the emotions he's going through. Like, he feels scared in, scary situations. He has to rise to the occasion. He's just not some natural BA that just walks in and just dominates the entire scene. He's an actual dude that's just been trained but can't deal with this stuff. So good.
And the scene that got me the first time I watched it is when dude takes the knife to the side of the face and then you see him and he just, the way they shot him pulling it out was like,
oh, dude. Well, dude,
it's
and then,
so good.
Well, then right after that, they go through the air ducts and you see him and he's hauling, like, scrambling freaky, and he slams into the side of it and stays there and, like, gawks at him. Dude.
Horror movie vibes to 100. Like, right. And I think that's what really, if you look at my list of Bruce Willis films, of course there's some staples, but there's quite a few that horror element makes the list higher for me. Like, I don't know. That's my fault. But that movie, if you haven't seen Hostage, go see. I think it's $11.99 for Blu-ray and digital right now on Amazon. I need to buy a copy because I want it. I used to have it on DVD, and I'm really, really mad that it's not here, and I don't know where it is. I don't know if I let somebody borrow it. I don't know. And when I did this list, it just infuriated me to no end. Hostage is a really good movie that at the time got a lot of attention, but quickly burn out.
Right.
And it's kind of sad because it came out around the same era as Sin City, which overshadowed this film by a lot. So if you're going through a Bruce Willis bender because of everything going on right now with him, make sure Hostage hits your list.
Right, right. Yeah, it's just weird. Like you were saying, it came like a trusted fart, like where you didn't realize it was gonna be loud, and then everybody looked at you, and then they looked away. Like it was a great movie, but you know, it's weird because it came out at a time where everybody kind of was still expecting Die Hard from Bruce Willis. So when it, you know what I'm saying? Like, they were like, oh yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
But it also came out about the same time as Tears of the Sun. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it's a good movie, but it's not like Bruce Willis. You know, it's not, you know, I don't know. I think it's underrated. I think it's underappreciated. I really do. So yeah, number one for sure. Yeah. I mean, I want to go watch it right now. Like, out of everything we've talked about, that's the movie I want to pop in right now.
Yeah, God, I can't get over how it was the perfect storm, because I feel like films like this that are pitched as an idea get missed a lot. And I'm really happy whoever had to keep fighting to get that movie made. Whoever you are, if you ever stumble on our channel, just know I appreciate you with all of my heart, because that movie is fantastic.
Yeah, definitely great. Definitely underappreciated. All right, my number one. We have not talked about it. We haven't honorable mentioned it. We haven't even whispered it. What do you think it is, Caleb? Come on, man.
Disney's The Kid.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Some French fries.
It has an all-star cast, and it's probably the most expensive movie out of all of them that we've talked about to be made.
Armageddon.
Armageddon is my number one. I'm sorry. Like, I wanted to put Die Hard here. I gotta be honest. Once again, this is not really a Bruce Willis. Like, I mean, he's I think he's top billing, but I mean, dude, I watched it, and you know, and I probably could put Die Hard, but I gotta be honest. Like, I just watched it a couple days ago on Netflix. If you guys want to watch it, the whole movie, like at the beginning, he's starting to shoot like Ben Affleck, and like, you know, you got Steve Buscemi right there. He's like, I don't think this is legal. He's like, I'm temporarily insane, Rock. It's okay. Like, but he's oh God, dude, he's like peak Bruce Willis with the one-liners, with the immaturity. Like, he's hitting golf balls off the tanker, like trying to aim for the guys on the boat, and like he's like, you know, like they're protesting. He's like, you know how much diesel that thing puts out an hour? Like, the movie had heart. It was one of those, like when Braveheart came out, like the ending of Braveheart, you're like, whoa, this doesn't happen in movies. The ending of Armageddon, you're like, this doesn't happen in movies. Like, you're like, I'm not crying, you're crying. Like, action, comedy, horror, romance, all of it, all-star cast. Owen Wilson's in there, Ben Affleck, Steve Buscemi, like, what's his name? We talked about again from Green Mile. I forgot his name again. Like,
Michael Clark Duncan.
Yeah, you had oh God, the guy from Remember the Titans, the assistant head coach. Can't remember his name. Like, everybody in that movie's awesome. And then of course you got Billy Bob Thornton.
Thinking about Armageddon, I remember really, really, really liking it when it came out. And I mean, it's an entertaining movie. But now every time I watch it, I think of Ben Affleck going, wouldn't it make more sense to teach astronauts how to oil drill than teach oil drillers how to be an astronaut?
I don't know, man. Like,
that just breaks it.
I don't think they needed to be like, I would have rather the like they just come up there to, like, you know, help them run it. Like, they don't need to actually be the ones doing the work. But then something happens to the team and they have to rise to the occasion. I do think, like, them being the number one, like, go-to, like, you know, they could have just been like on the ship but trained, and then they had to suit up when something happened. I could have bought that a little bit more. But overall, man, like, the heart that's in that movie, like the dialogue, everything in it's just so great. Like, when he's like, so what are we supposed to experience up there? And he's like, you know, minus 1,000 degrees in the shade, plus 1,000 degrees in the sunlight, like, you know, razor sharp, unexpected gravity. He's like, just scariest environment imaginable. That's all you have to say. Like, the whole movie, dude, it's rock and roll, it's funny, and it's just so good, and it's intense. Like, once they get to the International Space Station thing, the Russian space station, like it is nonstop adrenaline. It's intense. Like, like I just can't. I can't say enough about that movie. I love it. I love it. I buy the love story between Ben Affleck and Liv Tyler. Like, oh man, just whew, I love that movie. I can't help it. I can't help it. But once again, it's kind of cheating because you have all this money, this big story. You have all these characters. Like it kind of feels like cheating, kind of like Pulp Fiction. You know what I mean? Like it kind of feels cheating to put him in there. But I got to be honest, man. Like there's just Armageddon's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. It's one of the best movies in the 90s.
It is. I give you crap, but it is. For some reason,
song.
the era of those films. So when I say those films, I don't mean disaster films. I mean films that came out around that time. So you had Armageddon, you had Con Air, you had Face Off, you had Gone in 60 Seconds. Like this is over like a 5-year span. Yeah. These movies, they are just action-packed, emotional roller coasters. And of them, Armageddon's not my favorite by any means. But of all those films from that, it did have more heart than the rest. And I will stand by that. But it also had the most redonkulous premise. I will also stand by that. And I think that's a fair, like a hill to die on. But it's so weird when you think about movies from that era. Like Armageddon is automatically a no-brainer first thought. Like it's right there. God.
I'm you're so disappointed. I'm sorry, dude. Like
No, it's fine. I'm actually not judging. I can totally see why it would make the top of your list. I don't know why I didn't think that you were gonna rank that high. Like when I scrolled, what's funny is I looked at Bruce Willis's IMDb just to make sure. Like I had films where I wanted them, and I saw Armageddon. And I was like, oh, I know John's gonna throw that on his list. And then as we're sitting here going through these, like not even a thought at all.
It's one of those, it's a spectacle movie. I don't watch it very often. Because it's so intense. It's like a 3-hour movie or something like that. It's a long movie. It's intense. Like I said, once they get on that space station thing, you still got like an hour and a half left to go, and it just doesn't. There's some calm moments, but for the most part, they're always in danger. They're always trying to figure something out. Like then all of a sudden you got Steve Buscemi like on the nuclear warhead. He's just like riding it. He's like dun, 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 like, and then he gets the machine gun. He just starts shooting stuff. Like the movie's just wild and never stops.
It also drives me kind of crazy. How is it Steve Buscemi like popped up in all these movies as the same guy, like throughout this era, like except for maybe Con Air. That was a little bit different. But every time he popped up, he was like that guy. Then again, in Con Air, he left the little girl alone, so maybe he wasn't actually the person they said he was.
Well, no, because he admits to it. He says one girl I drove through 3 or 5 states was wearing her head as a hat. So maybe he's messed up to where he thinks he did it, but
yeah. So or maybe he was putting on a persona so nobody would mess with him in prison.
Yeah, I'm sure
because he also talks about how all the other criminals are beneath him. What's weird, I love Con Air. I absolutely love that movie. It's a stupid movie. It is just dumb 90s action, but I love every second of it. I will never not laugh when that Stingray Corvette takes off.
Right.
It's so great. I love that movie. We should cover Con Air.
We should. I love when he first rolls up and he's parking it, and he's right next to his buddy and John Cusack.
John Cusack.
And his buddy's like, "Oh man, that's beautiful," and he's like, "Beautiful. Newborn babies are beautiful. This is fantastic." Like, oh my god, that movie's so good, dude. Endless quotes on that one. Put the bunny back in the box. Like, oh my god. Dude, we should do top 10 90s movies, maybe top 20, like, because it'd be tough. Like, there are some, like, it's weird how, like, I feel like, you know, there was a lot of cocaine usage in the 80s, but, like, in the 90s,
it
they
paid off
mastered.
in the 90s.
Yeah, like, I feel like they mastered the cocaine usage in the 90s. They, like, mixed it with some Adderall, you know, got some good special effects, and they're like, there's a good story, let's do it. Like, so anyway, we'll catch you guys later. Thanks for watching. Do us a favor and do the like, comment, subscribe thing so you get some more R&R. Comment down below your list for Bruce Willis top 10 movies. And like good vibes his way and his family way. We really appreciate you watching us. Till next time, bye-bye.
Peace.